Prudence, as I said, she talks about a wide range of topics. You have, again, another one of my pet peeves that I would love to get your opinion on, distracted driving.
Well, distracted driving, I think, is happening because of the political climate right now, for sure. But it was text messages for quite a while. But, I've seen people, handing out pizzas. And, people talking, and, the other person's talking, and they're turning to talk to the person. And, you're behind them, and you can see this whole thing unraveling in front of you as the person sort of decides that the lines of the road are a suggestion. It's not a suggestion. A stop sign is not a suggestion. These are things that we need to pay attention to. So, anyway, I've nearly died on the way here. But, and people are angry, they're so angry right now. For obvious reasons, sometimes for good reason, but, just focus on your driving. For the love of God, please.
Well, that sort of is a good transition into another topic that I heard you speak about fairly recently, perhaps triggered by a show that you watched about dysfunctional personalities.
Oh, dysfunctional personalities. That's really quite enjoyable. So, my husband Angus and I, and you know how outspoken he is, he's always pulling things out of his beard and so forth when we're watching. It's quite distracting. Speaking of distracting driving. So, we're watching the show. It's really quite fascinating. A classical sort of show about, what am I trying to say? A course. Classical courses or something. And he's talking about, personality disorders. So, we're enjoying it tremendously. We get to judge everyone, And we've started recognizing, all sorts of things. What's the one they're always talking about now? The people that always think about themselves all the time.
Narcissism.
Oh, there you are. Narcissism. Oh, they're very into that now, bipolar, all sorts of manic, And so we're having a lovely time, Oh, well, that's so-and-so. Oh, well, that's clearly so-and-so. The trouble is, they get to you, eventually. So we were sitting there having a grand old time, Angus was drinking his beer. And I should say that Angus likes beer. He's always liked beer. He's been known to have beer with other people. And they drink too much beer at times. And I've actually seen him nearly go into a coma. And that is on the record about the beer, by the way. So we're watching this thing on personalities and we're sitting there and all of a sudden we feel quite insecure, don't we? I mean, there we are. So I've got this kleptomania about pens. I had no idea I was stealing them. And I didn't know I had all sorts. I'm not going to tell you the others, because I think you probably know them. So I'm going to leave it at that. But don't watch those shows, because let me tell you, it starts out as a grand party and it doesn't end well, in spite of the beer.
Now, I understand that there's perhaps a little controversy going on at your house. Roe versus Wade.
Oh, the whole Kavanaugh hearing, yes. Kavanaugh, we've had enough, really. And the reason is, here's my dilemma, and maybe you can both help me. I'm in a spot here. I don't understand why the Supreme Court is discussing this, because let me just give you some background. My husband Angus, as you know, is a very odd chap. He's from Scotland. I was a debutante. It's a long story. There may have been beer involved on my end as well. So we're in a boat, and we're in Loch Ness because, Angus believes in Nessie. So it was summer, and he thinks Nessie's out there. So we're in the boat, and he wants to row. So, of course, we're rowing in the boat, aren't we? And it's the two of us, and I'm sorry, I don't see Nessie, but he does. And anyway, we start chasing Nessie, as you can imagine how that might end. And we end up on a shoal, and we had a lot of opportunity to ask some fishermen for direction. And, Angus wouldn't do it. He really refused to ask for directions. We ended up on a shoal, and we had to wade. We had to wade through that muck. And we were up to, I can't even tell you, we were nearly drowned. I can't even tell you. So I think when it comes to Roe versus Wade, I'm sorry, I'm pro-wife. And the wife should decide if you're going to row the boat or wade. And if the wife was in charge, we never would have been in that kind of dilemma. Thank you.
Bravo,
Sums it up,
Prudence.
don't you?
Well, as long as we're on the subject of the Supreme Court, I understand that you have a little reaction to some current events.
Well, that was it, you know. That was my reaction. The rowing.
Oh, I
And the
see.
wading. I think it needs to be the wife's prerogative. I mean, in terms of that whole discussion, don't you?
Well, absolutely.
She's going to ask for directions. So if you're going to row or wade, it should be her determination.
Well, it's just, again, incredibly enlightening, and
Thank you so much,
and I
Sandy.
might
You're so
add-
kind. You really are.
And according to our Facebook Live audience, very entertaining as well. You have many friends tuning in, and perhaps after hours we'll share some of those names with you.